we'll reconvene to open session, and I'll let Mark start with the report, and I'll finish.
We had a request for use of sick time for a family that was unanimously approved by the board.
And we also had discussion of Superintendent Westerberg's annual evaluation. It was a very satisfactory evaluation. In fact, I believe the plan published that evaluation on the website. So,
There are copies up on top over there as well.
So you can see what we believe we've accomplished at this point, and the direction that the district is going, thanks to Mr. Westerberg. And we will deal with the balance of his evaluation and contractual issues related to his evaluation later in this board meeting. And now, let's see, Bob, you want to lead us in the pledge, please?
I think our flag's still.
Oh, there.
They didn't bring the other ones back. Oh, there they go.
Get it right? Yep.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
And let's see, we have recognition, right?
Do you want to come up and take it for?
From whom?
So, anyway,
Yes.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
you're fine. Just recognizing Lori Harris for, I believe, 3 years service on the board, or just a little over 3 years. And unfortunately, she decided to resign at one point, but she was at times a very valuable board member, and we can make arrangements to mail this to her. Okay, so thank you.
I'm glad we did that.
Yeah, I mean, she served her time. She did a great job at many of the opportunities that she had. Unfortunately, ideologically, she didn't feel that what she was doing here was good for her, so made opportunities for someone else to step up. Let's see. Superintendent comments.
Ended the year really well. I'm really excited that tomorrow and Friday and Saturday, this room is going to be turned into Reading 101 with Trish Martin. She's in town. I've already talked to her. She's ready to go. We have probably 40 people going to be here on their time off in the summer to come and get this done.
When's that, Friday and Saturday?
Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Is it okay for a board member to come down?
You're more than welcome to stop in. Yeah.
There's some aides coming as well?
Yes.
It's going to be in this room?
Yes. Yep. This is about the only room that's air conditioned and conducive enough to a large enough size. But
What are the hours on Saturday?
it's 8 to 3 all 3 days.
Okay.
And she is a star. She is, I call her Obi-Wan in reading. And she just has a great program. The teachers learn a ton. I've met with all the teachers pretty much who have gone to it, and they're all really engaged and enthused, and I'm looking forward to the results. It is truly instructional. It has nothing, it's not curricular, it's instructional. Here's what you teach, how you teach, and this is how you do it. This is why you do it that way.
Perfect.
So,
Looking forward to those how that develops in our reading programs.
we had a long leadership team meeting the other day, because I'm not a big person about just having meetings every month or every week just to meet. So we went through a long list of stuff. We set our priorities. One of the priorities for next year, there are 3 things that I still think we need to do a better job in organization for English language learner services. I also would like, I kind of appointed Marian Lona to put together a Native American program. What do we do? How do we deal with the students? What's our data? Who are they identified? because it's an underserved area for us. And if you look at our chart that the state has, it's one of the areas they say we don't do a very good job in. And so we really, to be honest, don't know our data well enough. We haven't identified the kids, I think, as well as we should. I think we just kind of left it up to them, put down whatever if you are or you aren't. And so I want us to look at that and make sure we're doing the right thing. I'm not talking about a Native American club kind of thing. We have that at the high school already. I'm talking about their program, their success. It's a group that has a ton of access to services that we're not using at the high school and middle school and elementaries now. That I want somebody to be charged with that focus. And she's the right person to do that. And I think that'll be a positive thing. The other incentive thing that we have to deal with is chronic absenteeism. That's another one of my goals for next year, is dealing with chronic absenteeism. And it depends on what side of the coin. She's like, yes for ADA. I'm yes for academics, tons. I don't even really think about ADA when I do it, because I know as an educator, you can't educate kids who aren't here. And that's our primary job. And our attendance isn't where it needs to be. And so I'm meeting tomorrow with the high school counselors and admin, and we're going through every single student who missed a significant number of days in the high school last year. And we're going to talk, why did they miss those days? What was the rationale? Are there policy and practices we need to fix to stop that from happening? Are there incentives that we don't have out there? Are there ways that we can handle that differently? So I want to go through every single kid, because going through the kids, they know all the kids. The kids and why they're not here will give us the answer about what we have to do. So tomorrow morning, that's my major issues, to go through that with the high school folks. And I'm going to start with the high school because they have the most volatility in attendance. But the same thing needs to be done K-12. But that's one of our focuses we want to work on as well. So, yeah. Other than that, we went through all the stuff. We have all next year set up, professional development when they start. Calendars are being planned out. So we kind of did our end of the year wrap up and our start of next year preparation. And for example, our November 1 professional development day, Trish Martin is coming back for day 4. On November 2nd, she actually does a coaching day. She goes into the teacher's classroom and observes them doing the instruction and gives them feedback.
Nice.
And so I'm really pleased about that, because it's more than just I went to an in-service. It's
Nice follow-up.
yeah. And when Trish did it in my previous district, she'd get her phone out sometimes and record somebody who's really doing well. Or she'd record somebody who's really struggling, and then she would say to the teacher, she literally will say, would you mind if I go up and do this with the kids? And she'll go up and do it. So we're already planning out the professional development. We have Gender Spectrum going to be here in 15th of August to deal with how to deal with gender equity. It's a huge issue, especially middle school, high school. All of the middle school, high school will be here for a presentation from a group called Gender Equity out of San Francisco. It's also part of the OCR resolution I did with them.
What's the date for that?
August 15th. We also talked about the new start times for next year, where two of the buildings start at 8, 2 start at 8:10, and we're organizing our day so we can use Tuesdays better. That's K-5 busing, 6-12 busing. So a lot of those things we have talked about are now put into place. Okay.
So the middle school, I know that they were doing attendance challenges throughout the year.
Yeah.
And apparently they had some pretty good success.
Yep.
The it would be nice if we could try and identify, obviously the ice cream's not going to be the answer, but some kind of an incentive at the high school level that rewards kids for being in school. Clearly, the attendance is a big issue. It's a big issue for two reasons. One, you're right, you can't teach kids that aren't here. And secondarily, ADA is how we get funded. So we need those kids on the rolls. We need actually here.
And I've learned what I needed to learn about how you constitute clicking if somebody is an ADA for the day or not. And so that needs to be part of our policy and practice.
That's where I think we need to work.
Yeah,
Is
and
our
a question-
policy. Practices.
And a question I'll throw out there is, is attendance a regular discussion point with the teachers and staff in terms of them interceding with kids that have been, they show up sporadically? Do they grab that kid, have a discussion with them, explain why they need to be here?
They do. I would say that the teacher to student isn't near as effective. There's a very simple thing. There's certain classes, and I'll just pick one out, for example. Brian Bowles doesn't have a great deal of attendance issues. The kids love that class in high school. They're not going to miss that class as a class they like. Well, it's hard to develop that same enthusiasm for algebra. Okay, so that's something we have to work on. And the teachers are very much into attendance and want the kids to attend and talk to them. But we need to make sure policy and practice, we need to make sure that phone calls home, those kind of things.
Is that excused and unexcused absences that we have an awful lot of parents that are okay with them?
Right.
Unexcused.
Right. And we've been doing the robocalling when they're gone, it calls out to the home, those kind of things. But, that's not, obviously it's not drawing people in. A call to the house at 9 o'clock in the morning, the cat's already out of the bag and gone. So we got to figure that out.
Is there going to be any information about the school resource officer?
We're going to talk about it.
Oh, okay, so we skipped it, so I just wanted to.
I guess we could, my part. So let's go ahead and talk about the school resource officer.
I have been in talks with the city of Willits about a resource officer. The local papers ran an article that I wrote up about school safety. And in that article, there were two really important things. One is having a climate and culture where students feel comfortable talking to adults. If I feel comfortable with Mr. Chavez and I'm a student and I know somebody's been saying something, doing something, changed behavior, and I'm worried about it, if I'm in an environment where I feel comfortable having that conversation with him, our chances of a violent behavior go way down. So we're always trying to make the culture as good as we can. However, that never means that you're not going to have an incident. So a liaison officer provides multiple things. A liaison officer hopefully will be a deterrent, hopefully will be a connection with a student different than a school connection because they're not in their classroom, they're not fighting over grades and all that. They're a different type of person in the building. I also think they can be really helpful with chronic attendance. Using the officer to go to homes with myself or the principal or whomever to say, why is your child not in school? And here's what we're going to do. We're going to come by. If your kid's not there, expect me at your house at 8:15. Those are the things that I think an officer can do. The ultimate for a liaison officer is school violence issues are usually no longer than 3 minutes long. I mean, it's virtually never more than 3 minutes. Well, if you have a liaison officer already armed in the building, you might have a 45-second issue. Well, a 45-second issue has a lot less violent action going on than a 3-minute. So there are multiple things that a liaison officer brings to the table besides going into classrooms, those other things. I also would give that person the responsibility of our emergency and safety planning and being that contact. It's far different when you're at the high school or even in the central office when you have somebody who has a police radio on. Your response time now is cut way down. There's no middleman. You're automatically on. So there's a lot of good things that come from it. The city would like to do a 75-25 split, essentially saying the officer's yours for 9 months, they're ours for 3 months. Because they want them basically for June, July, and August. That's a very reasonable option. If you look at the entire cost of an officer, retirement, and by the way, they pay Social Security unlike teachers, and so there's FICA, retirements, taxation, healthcare benefits, all that stuff. It comes out to somewhere, I think it was about 93,000 something. Our portion would be just under 70. You know, again, it's $70,000. It's not changing. The question is, does the value of that, what's the benefit from that? I think there's a huge benefit. It's not something we can say, well, we'll try it and do it. Because they have employment issues. If we were going to do it, we would need to get pretty serious about getting it in place. It takes them a while to get an officer in place. Also, you don't want to say, oh, we hired a liaison, oh, but we're going to lay them off next year. Because now they have to bump somebody else out. I think we really have to look at this as like a 3-year issue. Plus, somebody coming on brand new, it's going to take a little bit of time to figure out their role. But clearly, if there's a disaster in town, if the fires are here, the officer's going to leave the school site and go to the emergency. That's logical. I mean, if they were pulling you over and then a disaster happened, you're not going to get a ticket that day. They're leaving. So I think that it would really help us in a lot of ways. So,
Do you think if we were to push for this, do you think we could have them in place by the first day of school?
possible,
Okay.
possible.
What I would like to see is basically like a job description, list their duties, their school duties, what their expectations are while they're here. Also like to find some language in there that the city recognizes that if that individual takes vacation or is off sick, that they'll backfill that position. Because quite frankly, if we're going to spend money on that position, I want to make sure that position's filled.
I can answer the vacation issue, because I already covered that with them. I said, there are no vacations on 180 days.
Right.
Okay? There's no such thing as a vacation day. Those are days when I need my bus drivers here, I need my cooks here, I need my liaison officer on those 180 days. So the only thing I think we would really need to deal with is a sick day thing.
Yeah. And
So did the city come to you?
No, I went to them. I went to them months ago.
Right.
But as they've changed over in city managers, they've changed over police chiefs. The chief was sick for a while. The sergeant I've been working with. I pretty much have hit most of the top people in the city. I have a couple of councilmen, that kind of stuff. Is that I know for this to happen effectively, they have to grasp the concept of can we do this? You know, the city has a burden they would have to pick up too, because they would have to hire, they're not going to hire a 75% officer. They have to hire another full-time person. So they have 25% of an officer they're going to have to add to their budget. So it's not free for either one of us.
Right.
So
I believe that as long as we can fiscally support this position, I believe as a board we'd be negligent in our duties if we did not hire a resource officer and we were capable of doing so.
I think there's some obvious things we could do. You know, staffing wise, if I were starting from scratch, I would have added this position in. But Again, we're not starting from scratch, but I think over the next year or two, I think we need to figure out staffing. And, you know, it's just one of those things, as the superintendent, I have to say to you, I hate spending money. But what's the downside of not spending money?
I think it's important to be effective, to look at it instead of yearly, like you're stating, of saying at least 3 years, because I think historically, we've done that in the district, where we have one-time monies, and we get a resource officer, and then we don't have it next time, and it's the first thing to go. So I think if we're gonna try to establish that relationship and make that in our community with the resource officer, I would appreciate seeing it projected out, like you're saying, at least 3 years or whatever.
And the other thing you need to know is that we're just the size where we should have one. Ukiah has multiple, okay? Laytonville's too small to have one. But we're the size where it's prudent to have one. So it is a size thing in a district. You know, Leggett's not gonna have an officer on duty.
Okay.
We also have a building that has at least 50 probably points of entry to it. We have a building that it has cameras, but it's not cameraed as much as I'd like it to be. And honestly, a camera just records the problem, doesn't stop any problem.
Documentation. Yeah.
Also, our proximity to Sanhedrin really is a good thing, because that officer really is in close proximity to, let's be honest, our most two potential problematic spots. And so, you know, I like the idea.
Well, we talked briefly about the possibility of having a July meeting. Could we have a proposal
Yeah.
by July that we could act on?
Yeah,
Okay.
Do you have any July meeting?
we're talking about,
Okay.
I think you were gone that day. We'll work around that.
Okay. Any other questions or comments with respect to the school resource officer?
So what's the time schedule for the board to approve this? You know, if we,
We would do it at a July meeting,
Okay.
but what I'm really looking for the board is basically kind of a director to say, Mark, pursue this. What's the total cost? What would it look like? Give me a job description. See if we can put this in place.
absolutely.
Yeah, I think we're all on board with pursuing this.
You got it.
And seeing if we can get this in place. It sounds like a smart move. Like you, I'm always anxious about spending significant amounts of money, but I think that this has the potential to be very beneficial.
Maria may have a comment.
I just wanted to say that, like I said at the admin meeting, we've had an SRO before, and it hasn't really helped our absenteeism, and I would like to, like, sort of maybe have an emphasis of what are those things that are going to be different this time that our SRO could help with absenteeism, because they haven't helped in the past with absenteeism.
Right.
Can we reach out to some of these other school districts that have these school resource officers and find out how they utilize them as well?
Yeah,
Make sure that I'd like to make sure that we got our biggest bang for our buck when we get this individual. Make sure that we've got a really strong set of expectations for this individual.
Yeah, I'm actually scheduled for a summer conference where that's one of the presentations is with SROs that work.
Can you
I have been in a high school where I've had SROs who are really excellent, and how they do their job. It's kind of like anything. I could go out and hire an attendance officer, and which, by the way, the state thinks we ought to have a designated attendance officer or manager.
Supervisor.
Yeah, that's
Well, yeah, I guess it's me by
Yeah,
default.
It's
exactly.
required by policy now, yes.
Yeah, and so, but we could go hire an attendance officer, but and give them a great job description, but if attendance doesn't go up, we just fulfilled a requirement.
Yeah, what's the point?
Yeah, it really comes down to the personality of the officer, to engage kids, engage parents, being willing to knock on a door and say, why is your child not in school? And if we don't have that person, I wouldn't fill the position just to fill it. I mean, that's my biggest issue, is the personality of that person. And the city has agreed that although they'll be their employee, we will have choice over who it is.
Okay. Moving on to board comments. Trustee Colby.
Yes.
Okay. Got to enjoy graduation for both Bechtel Grove as well as the high school. It was a very fulfilling evening, both of them. Really pleased to find that we're kind of ending the year on a high note, and looking forward to new things coming for next year. So.
And before you come, I want to say something about 8th grade promotion. And this is a kind of a bonus for Maria, but also part of our policy practice. We had a student speak at graduation who was one of the kids we called 8.5s, who wasn't ready for high school. Struggled in the first 12 weeks this year. And the parent with Maria and I made the decision, he didn't do what we told him to do, we're going to keep him in 8th grade. That became a very positive thing, and to the point where he volunteered to speak at graduation. And you know, that goes a long way with climate and culture at the middle school, policy and practice, and really looking at what we do with students. So, you know, that's a credit to Bechtel, because the parent was super ecstatic that their child went from, I shouldn't even move him to high school, to getting up in front of a ton of people and speaking about, you know, growing up and maturing. So it was really unique.
Yes.
I also went to both graduations. Staff did a good job. Thank you, Maria. Good job. And it was wonderful seeing the kids. Lastly, I'd like to invite all of you. There's an honors meet, a swim meet at the pool this Saturday and Sunday from about 9 to about 1. So if you want to stop by and cheer on some of those otters, please do so.
We're going to come complain about the coach, I think.
Yeah. Somebody has to.
We're going to be the parents up in the stands and the otter.
Get that coach out of there.
Well, I'll pass.
I'll pass as well. Okay, moving on. Let's see, any public comments on the consent agenda? And hearing none, we'll move on to, I'd entertain a motion on the consent agenda.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
Moved
Can I
and seconded.
actually make one comment I forgot I should mention, because the Perkins Range is on the consent, is that correct?
Yes.
I did want to, oh, I'm sorry, not the Perkins, I'm thinking of the Ag Incentive Grant.
Right.
I wanted to note that there will be a technical revision before it goes into the state. It will have no change to how we're actually spending the dollars, but some things were listed as capital outlay expenditures that, from the way that we do our accounting with the state, are truly not considered capital outlay. They will be reported to the state as materials and supplies. So everything we say we're going to be doing, we will be doing, but they will just be moved to a different category.
Okay, appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
All in favor of the consent agenda, approving the consent agenda?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? 100%. Moving on down to item C, approval of resolution 18-21, rescinding resolution of 2017 18-9.
So we had done a previous resolution which was withdrawing from one of the layers of our liability insurance. And at that time, the GPA manager had told us that there was a possibility that they could resolve some of their concerns with that fund that they would rescind. So they have resolved those concerns and have asked districts to rescind the previous resolution, and will remain in that group for that layer of our insurance.
This is liability insurance.
Correct.
Looking for a
I'll make a
motion.
motion to approve Resolution 2017-18-21, rescinding the resolution of 17-18-19.
And
I'll second.
Is there a downside to this?
Not that I know of. One thing I will say is that I don't spend a ton of time digging into the details of the various layers of our liability insurance. It is a pretty large JPA that we are in, and we have a dedicated JPA manager who knows it very intricately and has worked with that group as long as I think I've been in the district. So I feel very confident that when he makes recommendations that he has done due diligence and research.
We've never had any claims that went to this level.
To that layer, not that I'm aware of, not in my time period at least.
Did the bond lawsuit get to this?
We were the plaintiffs.
Right.
We were the ones on the hunt.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that that was a claim against our insurance anyway, that I'm aware of.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes. And adoption of the local control accountability plan, 2018-19. I believe we saw that last meeting.
And as I said, that's one of my projects for this year, is to evaluate how we get input, what's the input look like, are we spending it? It's out long enough now that we can kind of get a sense of, are we spending it like other people are spending it? Is it something that, since we know it's a part of our budget, is there a simpler way to put the program together so we have less issues? So it's a learning curve. I'm 2 years into the LCAP. You know, I'll be honest, I'm not overly excited about the process or the product, but I understand it's a necessary part of our budget, and something I need to get
Something to
better
get
at.
attention to, yeah.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve adoption of local control accountability plan.
I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion? Call for the vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Okay. Passes. Now we're to the big one, item E, adoption of the 2018-19 Willits Unified School District budget.
And you had received all items except there were two things that I passed out to everyone, which is the criteria and standards. This just helps the district assess, are we using sound assumptions? Do we have reasonable data that we're building our budget on? Are there risks that we should be aware of? So they use this sort of same format at every budget reporting period so that you have a consistent thing that you can look at from budget period to budget period. And then the other piece that I passed out, which is just the certification that we have to sign. Part of that states that we adopted the LCAP as well, and it also discusses that we looked at the reserve, which was something we looked at the hearing. So, and it summarizes some of the criterion standards in a very condensed format. But the criterion standards provides more detail. So if there's areas where, for instance, if it sets a standard for what your attendance to your enrollment ratio should look like, if we have made an assumption outside of that, we provide an explanation as to what that is based on.
And isn't that what one of the things that the county office in their annual review in September looks at, is how close we are?
Christie White,
Right, because these,
associates looked at that.
yeah, so it is looked at both by the county office as well as by our independent auditors. And then it's sort of the state criteria, and are we reviewing that, are we adhering to those things?
Are we on discussion of the budget now?
We are.
Okay, and prior to you being here, we received this budget and we were basically said, don't worry too much about it. You know, the real budget will come in September. And I went through this budget and I've listened to what you've said, and I have the impression that this is pretty close to our budget.
You know, it's always a moving target. I would say there's no real budget until, I think September, what you're referring to is our unaudited actuals, which is prior year. So until it's a done deal, we don't know anything for certain. But there are practices that we put in place to do our best projections. A huge bulk of our expenditures are in positions. So we have what we call position control set up, which each position is lined out what we expect the salary to be, the associated benefits. And if we have staffing changes, we keep that up to date so that it's giving us the most up-to-date and accurate projections.
I'm
So-
not a numbers person, but I have instincts, and my instinct tells me that this is closer to an honest budget than we've seen.
I would
Years
say,
past.
I try every budget period to be as accurate as possible. I will point out, as Mark mentioned at our last meeting, we have been in the process of going into a new financial software, which has been challenging. I look forward to being in it full-time because it does have some really great features, and I think it's going to be a good tool for us, but it's been a huge task getting all of the data out of the first system and into the new one. So this budget was built in the new system. So I've done my very, very best to make it as accurate as possible, but I will say it was an adventure. It is in a new system. So there may be things that as we continue to come through it, if we find revisions, we'll of course bring those forward.
One of the differences though for me is that we have discussions about purchases, especially large purchases. We have two of them at Becca. We have a $40,000 math, $40,000 language arts we've put into place. And we've had the discussion about how many years do you do the adoption for, how many, where is it coming from, can we wait till July? And so what I like to do is give Nikki the parameters of here's what we need to spend, here's what we need to get. And then she sorts out what's the best way to do it to fall into the budget. So there's no, I'm not gonna drop a $50,000 expense on her in, the end of June. And so we have a lot of good communication with that, and I rely on her to sort that out because she has to make it look right and work in the budget.
Under criteria and standards, there's basically a list of the criteria and it says met and not met. You mentioned that we respond back with an explanation for each of those.
Yes, so there's a thicker packet that has a lot more detail that goes along with each of those numbered items.
Okay, good. So I will review those. Beyond that, we will have plenty of opportunity to kind of get familiar with the budget. I'd entertain a motion to approve if there is such a motion.
I'd happy to make that motion, and I think there's been a couple of years where I haven't voted for the budget, prior incarnations, and I'm very pleased with this budget process. I'm glad I got it a week ahead of time. And I have more confidence in this financial reporting than I've had in the past, so I'm very pleased.
Second? Yeah.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any further discussion on the budget? And call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And passes. Okay, we're to resolution number 2016-17-22. Is that correct?
What? That is not correct. I will tell you what that number is. I happen to have it right here. 2017/18, number 22. Oh, I have it up above, I just didn't put it, wait.
No.
17-22.
Good job.
Yeah, the EPA. I have it correct in one spot, not the other.
Okay. So as corrected,
Thank you.
So entertain a motion and some discussion.
I make a motion that we approve the resolution that's in the correct spot.
Thank you.
I'll second.
And any discussion? Brief description of what that's all
Oh,
about?
sure, I can provide that. So several years ago, if you guys recall, I believe it was Prop 30, the district, well, all districts in California had received budget or funding reductions from the state, and the governor had gone out and gotten some sales tax and other income tax to restore those cuts to schools. And when that was approved, the funding came back to schools with the direction that it be used for, basically not used for administrative expenses. And so essentially we have to provide a plan each year showing how we intend to use it, and then at the close of the year, how did we use it? And we, as most districts, just use that towards our teacher salaries. It's a easy, in terms of accounting, to do it that way. And so the resolution is here just stating the reason why we're approving it, and the plan is attached.
That was for, I believe, about 1.8 million.
Yes.
It's been motioned and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And any nays? Passes. Approval of resolution 2017 18-23, authorization for the 2017-18 interfund temporary cash transfers.
So if it's okay with you, rather than going through each of the next resolutions, I will just say collectively, these are something that we do every year. Some of them are related to budget transfers that allow us to do the business we need to do throughout the year. Some of them are specific to interfund transfers, so our cash flow is not always the same thing as our fund balance, and we may be expecting payments from the state for various things. So child development sits in a separate fund, and if we were to not have received all of our funding yet, we have the flexibility to do 3 cash transfers, so that when we do the closing of the books, we don't have a negative cash balance. It's immediately restored and then replaced by the funding when it is received. Do you guys have questions about any of the particular ones?
I certainly don't. Can we approve all 3 of these at once?
I don't think so. But I don't, this is H is where we're on?
We're on G.
G, okay.
Oh yeah, and I think I was sort of addressing G, H.
I didn't see
I.
any numbers in here, so presumably there's a list someplace with the numbers.
You mean dollars?
Yeah.
So these are not related to particular transfers which have happened. This allows, you are authorizing me to do these transactions as needed in order to close the books and in order to keep our budget updated throughout next year.
Okay, so I'd be more than happy to approve it, but I mean, could you just, maybe at the next meeting, just give us a, just a little 1-paragraph cheat sheet of, what the,
What each
You know,
one means?
not each number, I don't worry about, like a $2,500 transfer from this fund to that fund, but I mean, if there's any fund transfers of more than, say, $50,000 or something, I'd be interested in.
Sure.
If there are any.
In terms of fund transfers, the larger ones generally that we will see that are, as opposed to the temporary ones that help us close the books, but actual transfers that are permanent ones, generally what we see there would be our contribution into our food service fund.
Right.
I don't believe we are currently budgeted for a contribution into child development, but if we were, that would be another one we would regularly see.
I
So
think
those would be
that those
common
numbers would be
ones.
helpful for us
Sure.
to just see, just give us, because I mean, that's where the money's going off the rails.
Mhm.
And there's plenty of reasons for that, but I mean, I'd like to sort of just
Sure.
glance at what's going off the
And
rails.
just so you know, when you are looking at the budget, so 2 things to know about funds leaving the unrestricted general fund, you're gonna see it in 2 places within the budget. One is our contributions, and that is going from the unrestricted side of the budget to the restricted side.
Right.
So generally, what you'll see with that is that when you look at the combined general fund, that zeroes out, because it should always be the same number. And then you have your transfers out, and so those will be funds leaving the general fund, going into other funds. So, as I said, food service is probably our most
Like if it's
common.
$100,000 transfer to food service, that tells us something. You know, it just tells us that, you know, we might pay a little bit more attention when,
It's actually about 230.
okay, so see, I think
That's
that's,
a good point.
that's
Yeah.
valuable information for us, and I mean, just take, I mean, it's not like we're gonna be able to do anything about it, but I mean, you know,
Just good info.
at least
Mhm.
gives the board, you know, as food service issues come up during the upcoming academic year, that
Right.
we can, you know,
Sure.
maybe have our ears.
And I'm happy to provide that in probably, so when I bring the unaudited actuals in September, I can tell you specifics about what we did in 17-18.
That'd be fine.
And then going forward, just always know that one of the things that you can look at, when you look at general fund, you'll see transfers out. And when you look at Fund 13, it should show transfers in. And so that will help you know how much of that combined transfers out is actually going into food service. At the moment, I think it's really all of the transfers out is just that one fund. We don't currently have anything going into the other funds that I'm aware of, that I can think of at the moment. So that's another place you can always look, is within the Fund 13 form in SACS. That's the food service funds.
Apparently, you're not superstitious. We took a field trip to the Empire State Building when I was in 8th grade, and they got in the elevator, and there was no, they had elevator operators at the time. They pointed out there was no 13th floor, which concerned me. So, like, anytime my pleadings or anything like that, I go from paragraph 12 to 14.
I love it.
So did we have a motion and a second?
We do not.
We did not.
I move that we approve the resolution.
Okay, and a second?
I'll second it.
That's a roll call vote.
It was a resolution. Are all resolutions supposed to be roll call?
Yep.
We've been kind of, not quite as.
Well, if it's unanimous, you know, it makes it pretty easy, but, you know, if there's a no vote. you
So any
know,
further discussion? Call for the vote then. Director Neary?
Aye.
Carney?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Myself? Okay. Item number H. Again, this is very similar. Resolution authorizing year-end transfers. I believe we actually had most of that discussion already. Anything to add? Okay. Entertain a motion?
I move we approve.
A second?
I'll second.
So, call for the vote. Mr. Colby?
Aye.
Robert?
Aye.
Carney?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
And myself, aye. And I believe the next one is essentially the same thing again, or it's very similar. This is item number I, authorization for 2018-19 transfers. And
I'll make a
is there-
motion.
Is there a reason why there's all three, they're slightly different, but,
The one you're actually doing now is for 18-19, for her to be able to
Oh,
do
gotcha,
business in
18-19.
18-19.
I see that. My apologies. So entertain a motion to approve,
Move we approve.
I'll second it.
and any further discussion? And call for the vote. Mr. Colby?
Aye.
Chavez?
Aye.
Carney?
Aye.
Neary?
Aye.
And myself, aye.
And this last one I realized I didn't really touch on yet. So I will say, essentially, the final one is so that when we close the books, any fund balance that we have, that we officially designate that as a reserve, because the way the law is set up, anything that we don't have set up as a reserve has to go back to the state, so
We don't want that.
we
We don't give any
That's not
back.
Yeah. I'd love to be in a position where we could afford to give them a refund, but that's not likely to happen for some time, if ever. So I'll entertain a motion.
I'll motion to approve resolution.
Okay. Second by,
I'll second it.
and so, any further discussion? Call for the vote. Mr. Colby?
Aye.
Others? Aye. Tony?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
And Bolt's aye. Moving on to approval of
Con App.
application for funding. So, any discussion on that?
It was.
Mhm.
I'm trying to think what we should do with this one. So the Con App has changed in the past. They have asked that we designate allocation plans. And at this point, that is no longer part of the application. Simply is an application stating that we choose to apply for Title I, Title II, and Title III, as well as a program, I believe it is Title V now, which is the Rural Education Program. And we sign a form saying that you've done the addendum. So at this point, so I will have to submit that by June 30th. I think we can put in the application a future date if you would rather I bring it back at the August meeting with the form itself.
We've always done a Con App. You'd be crazy not to apply for Title I money. What is Title? Almost $500,000 in the district.
About 440 now. but-
Yeah, but it is our annual application to the feds for the money that they give to us. And it changes every year, the forms change. Now there's an addendum I have to do that goes with LCAP that connects the two together. But we've done the process forever.
And Title I funding is usually used for what?
It's in mainly in teacher and aide salaries. We also use it for some professional development.
Professional development, it's generally circles around language arts and math and paraprofessionals. I'm gonna guess probably 85 to 90% of it we spend on people. And it is the way we're able to employ folks to help us with things like BLAST, reading interventions, Title I teachers, and so we have to apply for this money.
It's not in the packet though, right?
Correct.
So
It was
I
my
would,
intention to bring it, and I apologize.
I would make a motion rather than approve the application, just delegate it to the administration.
And I agree. Yeah. So, do we
Direct
have
the
a motion?
business manager to submit the Con App.
Perfect. Okay. So we don't need to actually approve it then, and you can
No,
submit it?
we have to approve the motion to.
Approve the motion, yes, to do that, but basically you can bring the approval of the application later.
Give us a copy of it after it's sent in.
So,
I've made a motion, so.
and seconded?
I'll second.
Okay.
Delegate application of the Con App.
They're directing the business manager to submit the Con App.
You remember those words, okay? Thank you.
Any further discussion? And call for the vote. All in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. Okay, now we're going to talk about ratification of the superintendent's employment contract. So let's entertain a motion first.
No, that's not in here either, right?
Correct, this is,
I do have a copy of this contract though.
I mean, we're talking about the original contract, we're just
Yes.
extending it.
yes,
Okay. Like the general manager of the Warriors, when they brought in Kevin Durant for negotiations, they just said, how much do you want? You know, that's what you're gonna get.
That was pretty cool.
That's sort of the way I feel with our current superintendent, because I think we're just making gigantic strides.
Yes, I agree. Now, essentially, in his current contract, because we gave him a satisfactory, in fact, above satisfactory rating with respect to his evaluation, there's a clause in his contract that allows us to essentially automatically extend his contract for 1 year. We'd like to exercise that and ratify that at this point in time. There is no change to the superintendent's pay scale. It stays exactly the same.
3 years in a row.
3 years in a row. So, Again, entertain a motion to approve.
Well, I don't want the superintendent to enter into free agency, so I'll move that we extend it for 1 year.
Is there a second? I'll second. Don't everybody jump in at once. Is there any discussion with respect to the superintendent's employment contract?
I would just like to clarify for Joanne, since she's here, that actually extends his contract, because I know you're gonna want it for the paper, June 30th, 2020. That's your date.
A lot of 20s in there.
Yeah. So, call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next item is M, it's approval of superintendent's merit pay per contract. In the superintendent's contract, there is a clause for merit pay, and I'd like to entertain a motion and we'll discuss that.
I move that we implement the merit pay for the contract.
I'll second it.
Okay. And any discussion with respect to the merit pay? Mark, could you give us some background on that?
Sure. I like the concept of having a merit incentive. I wish I could do it with all our admins. In fact, I wish I could do it with our teachers. If you believe my performance is satisfactory or better, then I achieved that merit. And I achieved that merit through accomplishing the goals that you've set for me. So in my evaluation that we're putting out, there's very specific goals in there that you want me to work on. And as we go through some of our board meetings, we'll kind of elaborate about what those are and what we've talked about to accomplish. But I think that's a good position for everybody to be in. When I came, I wanted to stay at $1 figure the entire time. I'm not interested in negotiating pay raises for myself or anything. I'm set. I'm where I'm going to be. But I do want to have the board to have discretion over any type of merit, because I think merit's an important thing. I come from a world previously where teachers had merit pay, principals, everybody. And I just think it's a positive thing. And it's something you earn, it's not something you're just given. I plan on putting the evaluation out on the website because I want folks to know what my goals are. I'm not interested in they know what we've accomplished. I'm more interested that they know where we're headed and what our focus is.
Very good. Any discussion with the board? For the public, that merit pay amounts to how much?
I don't know, is it 4,600, something like that? It's 3%, I think it's 46. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you're
If
correct.
it's 4630, is that what Linda told me? I should know, it was the same, whatever it was last year, that's what it is this year.
Your wife would probably know that.
Probably knows that. But again, it's,
4650.
oh, okay.
Wait a minute, I thought
Yeah.
it was 4630.
It's, yeah. I wanted to be very clear that when I came that, you know, I don't want to spend time negotiating a contract. I want to spend time doing my work, and I'm not here to say, well, I need $5,000 more. That's ridiculous stuff. I need to be on task, and I like the merit as part of that task.
Well, it works for us. We appreciate that it works for you. Any further discussion? Call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Takes care of that, so we've got Mark till 2020 now. And
I love California law because Greg Rowland, your attorney, referred to it as a salary augmentation. I'm like, this sounds like you got a body part cut out. Yeah, but California does not like the term merit pay, apparently.
let's see, public comments for items not on the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, in light of the size of the crowd tonight, I move that we limit public comment to 3 minutes each.
I'm not going to disagree. So, since we are talking about the next agenda, do we want to try and set a date for a July meeting? Or do we want to, I mean, we want to talk briefly about items we want on that agenda.
You can also make it a work session if you want.
Usually there is a July, work, what do you call that?
Yeah. Well, and the difference in a work session is you're really not approving resolutions. You're meeting and planning and,
Well, the items that I see being valuable to deal with in July are facilities, in terms of getting an idea of those values, prioritizing our facilities issues, getting values associated with that, and the other was,
Research service.
yeah, putting some more
right.
meat behind the idea of the resource officer. Those are the two burning issues in my mind.
Do we want to propose days or?
Yeah. Do we want to look and see at a date?
I'm going to be gone in July, starting around the 20th until the 26th or so, 27th.
Do you all want to send me your availability?
Probably
And I'll-
be
and
better.
I'll do that.
Yeah.
If you send it to me.
Kelly sent out a really cool thing, but it like, everybody can do a check
Oh,
mark
yeah,
on
I've seen that.
Doodle.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and July 4th is really awkward. It's a Wednesday.
It's a really awkward day because I'll be going to Tennessee.
Is,
Yeah.
I mean, I'll throw a date out there, does the 11th or the 18th work for anyone? Those are Wednesdays.
Works for me.
11th's fine with me. 18th's probably okay too.
I would probably say 11 would work fine.
Let's tentatively set it for the 11th, unless something
Subject
changes.
to Cynthia's
Are you
available.
going?
You got it.
Yes, I'm gone.
That's
You don't need me.
We don't need you. Why are you here?
Here.
Okay.
Okay, so 11, 7, 11, 10, technically?
11th, yes. Any particular time, do we want to continue in the evening? I'm good with even like a 5 o'clock meeting.
Shoot for 5. Okay, we're looking at 7, 11, 5 p.m.
Is there a reason why we would need closed session? I'm not seeing anything. But
Not
we
that I
just
can
I'll
think of.
just do an open.
do an open session unless you guys decide to add something that needs that attention. So July 11th it is.
All right, good.
July 11th at 5 o'clock. Motion to adjourn?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Hi.
I got swim practice.